everyone, it's Brittany. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all had an amazing New Year's Eve. I wish you guys all the best in this year to come. I'm really excited for 2019. I have a lot of stuff that should be happening this year, so I hope it's awesome. So in this video, I'll be sharing some of my tips for using powder foundation. A lot of people don't really know how to use powder foundation. It is quite simple once you get the hang of it. It's just that there are some things that are important for prepping your skin for powder foundation. So I'll be sharing those tips and also like how to apply it obviously, and some of the makeup that I like to use after using powder foundation. I hope you enjoy it. Definitely give me a thumbs up, and if you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. I would love to have you here. I do cruelty-free beauty videos. I also do lifestyle videos, fashion and hauls, things like that. So if you like those types of videos, definitely stick around. So without further ado, if you want to see how I like to apply my powder foundation and some makeup afterwards, then just keep watching. So I feel like there are a few very important steps that you need to do in order to have powder foundation look its best. The first step that is extremely important is to make sure your skin is moisturized. So this is going to be a little bit different for people depending on what type of skin that you have. If you have oily skin, you probably don't need too much. I feel like anything from oily to combination, even something like the Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer would be really good because it's a primer and moisturizer in one. For me personally, I like to have the most hydration possible for my skin before using a powder foundation, and usually that means using a face oil. There are a bunch of brands that have really good ones. There's more affordable ones from like Burt's Bees, but recently I got this mini facial oil trio from Herbivore. I've heard so many good things about their face oil, so I'm using the one called Orchid. It's the youth preserving face oil. They all work really well. I think for this video, I might actually use both because the Primerizer does prime a little bit. So I'm gonna do a thin layer of that, and then on top of that, I will add some of the Herbivore Orchid youth preserving face oil all over my face and let that sink in before I do anything else. And since the skin around my eyes is usually very dry and flaky, I also like to make sure that that skin is very moisturized too. So I am using the Veriphy 2020 eye cream, and this is just gonna go all around my eyes, and then I'm also gonna let that sink in before doing anything else. I wanted to share with you my two favorite powder foundations at the moment. One is from Nude by Nature. This is a cruelty-free brand. This powder foundation is called the Radiant Loose Powder Foundation. I have mine in the shade N2 Classic Beige, and this definitely gives you a very pretty sheen on your skin. It doesn't completely mattify, which is why I really like this one. The other one I have is from Tarte. This one is a really popular brand for powder foundation. It's the Amazonian Clay Full Coverage Airbrush Foundation. I actually have two of these because I like to mix the shades so that I have some for when like I'm tan, when I'm fair, and in between. This is also a very important step. So when you're applying powder foundation, you want to make sure you have the right type of brush. I always recommend using something that is shorter and denser. So the Real Techniques buffing brush is really good for doing this. It's also very affordable, but a bunch of brands have really good ones. Basically, any brush that is short and dense like this is going to work very well. Now, if you have any blemishes, this is probably a good point to use a liquid concealer. This is what I like to do before if I do have anything that is like really standing out or like super red or raised. So I have this pimple right here, which is really annoying. So I'm going to use a little bit of liquid concealer to cover that first. I'm using my Milk Makeup Flex Concealer in the shade Fair to do that. So when I apply the powder foundation, I usually just dip the brush into the powder foundation. I just like to use circular motions to buff this in. I will be buffing this in all around my entire face, and I will also be blending it a little bit down my neck as well, just so that you don't see like a weird line. You can build it up a little bit, and if you only want a little bit of coverage too, then you can just apply a little bit of powder foundation and it still looks really good. At this point, I like to use my lighter powder foundation, so I have the shade Fair Honey from Tarte, and this is going to be used on a smaller brush. I like to use a smaller one because it's so much easier to get into the space like underneath your eyes and like in the inner corners. I'm applying this everywhere that I would a normal concealer that I use to brighten up my under under eyes. So that's pretty much it for the foundation part. I do also want to show you guys a little bit of what I'm using for the rest of my makeup, because when I do powder foundation, I tend to choose different textures in makeup and finishes because they work better with the powder foundation. So I wouldn't suggest using anything cream based on your face after using powder foundation, because it will likely remove a lot of what you just worked on. So definitely stick to powder. I do like to choose things that have a bit more of like a shimmer or sheen to it, because powder foundation can obviously tend to look quite matte and a little bit powdery, obviously. I will fill in my brows really quickly. I usually use a pencil, but lately I've been really liking powder for filling my brows, and it seemed appropriate since the rest of this is going to be powder based. So I'm using this brow powder duo in the shade medium brown from Anastasia. I'm going to use the darker shade on the outer parts of my brows and lighter shade on the inner parts. And of course I will be setting them in place with the Essence Lash and Brow Gel. I'm also going to do a really quick eyeshadow look using the Away We Go palette from NYX. This has some really pretty shades in here, and I'm just going to do something very basic and good for every day. For mascara, I'm using the CoverGirl, the Supersizer Big Curl Mascara, and I'm going to put a couple coats on my top lashes and a little bit onto my bottom lashes. For the rest of my face, I will be using a face palette from Becca. This is from the Chloe and Malika collection, and it is really beautiful. I'll use the bronzer to bronze out my face a little bit. I'm also going to use a little bit of both of the blushes, and then I will also use the highlighter in here to highlight my face. All of the shades in this palette have a beautiful sheen to them, so I thought it would be perfect to use with powder foundation. The final thing I will do before applying a lip color is setting my makeup. So I'm using the Urban Decay All Nighter Makeup Setting Spray. These are my favorite makeup setting sprays I've ever used. And I think it's very important to use when you have powder foundation on, because it's going to set down that powdery finish and kind of blend everything together. And the very last thing that I like to do is just add a lip color. Obviously, this is completely optional, just like the rest of the face makeup, but I just wanted to add one to finish off this makeup. So I'm using one from CoverGirl. This is the shade 435 Streaker. It's the Demi Matte Lipstick. I feel like that's actually a little bit too pink, so I'm using the Ulta Beauty Radiant Shine Lipstick in the shade Innocent, and I'm gonna dab that on top of it because it's a bit more orangey. Okay, so that is everything for this powder foundation makeup tutorial slash like how-to. I originally was just gonna show the powder foundation and that was it, but I feel like the rest of the makeup you use is equally as important when you're actually using powder foundation, so that you get the best look overall. I hope you found this helpful. If you are new to makeup and new to powder foundation, this is just what works for me. Obviously, everybody is different, so if you find a different way, then by all means use that if it works for you. But these were just my tips to get a really nice looking powder foundation base for an everyday makeup. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, definitely give me a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet, and if you are new here. Also, let me know what types of videos you would like to see in 2019. I definitely want to make sure you guys are happy with my content, so leave me any suggestions in the comment section below this video, and I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I wish you all the best in this new year, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!